and white trash talking.
Hello world, I'm Doug Johnson, I'm White Trash Talking. So today is May 21st, 2025, and the world is in chaos right now. There's war or threats of war in several places, and of course the U.S. is involved in much of it. It's a very, very dangerous time now. It's touch and go with Iran, and the thing is, it's really hard to follow for me, and I'm on it every day. I'm reading, and I'm watching from various sources, and still it's hard sometimes to thread what's actually happening together. If you're not there on the ground, and most of us can't be, you have to rely on other sources. And even my sources, and they're diverse, sometimes they disagree with one another, and part of the problem is Trump is so unpredictable and so chaotic. I mean, one day he's saying he wants to annex another country or buy Greenland, or he's saying outrageous things that we can't really take seriously. I don't know if he means it seriously. And then the next day he says something completely reasonable, and you say, well, that's good. You know, we're going to talk with the leader of another country and talk about peace, and that's good. And then he'll turn around the next day and say that he wants to occupy Gaza and own Gaza. And you say, man, this is hard to even make any sense of. But I'm going to try to do that. And I just want to say something about my own channel here. You know, not many people are watching. At this point, it's pretty much just kind of like a diary for me. I'll look back on these episodes maybe in a few years, and I'm learning as I go, but whatever small audience I was attracting, as soon as I touched on the Gaza topic, everything went away. My videos were no longer promoted. I got a warning because of graphic images of starving children. You know, we can starve people, but we're not permitted to look at it, all right? But anyway, I contested that ruling, and I actually they overruled it, and I was able to show, but I didn't get any viewing. Just, I have a few subscribers, a few people watched, and at that point, I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay with this. I'm just starting out. I'm learning the ropes. I didn't come in with much expectations. I mean, even my title should suggest that. I'm not taking myself too seriously. White Trash Talking. I come from very humble background. Anyway, so I am what I am. So there's a lot happening in the world with Ukraine, Russia, Iran, and it's hard to follow it all, like I say, but what's really pressing right now is the genocide in Gaza. And it's, you know, I never thought I'd see a Holocaust in my lifetime, and here it is. And it's shocking the world. And half of the world is rightfully shocked, and the other half is kind of brushing it off. And it's a dividing line. But this is a point where people need to do something, whatever you can do. And I'm going to play something by Bisan Auda. She's a reporter in Gaza, a citizen reporter, sort of. She won a Peabody Award for her journalism. But she's just a resident of Gaza, very smart, very brave. And she gives an update. I want to play it now.
Hi. This video is meant to summarize what is happening now in Gaza Strip and to tell you that we are in the most dangerous phase of the entire genocide and even the Palestinian history. Yesterday, Israel launched a military operation, a huge, brutal military operation that only started with the killing of more than 100 Palestinians in one single night.
הלילה נהרגו כמעט 100 עזתים בעזה, וזה כבר לא מעניין אף אחד, כי כולם התרגלו שאפשר להרוג 100 עזתים בלילה אחד במלחמה.
Okay, I've got to say, what that Israeli said was, we killed 100 children in one night. And the world doesn't even seem to care. And he's happy about that. And it's shocking. And I see these things every day. Israel is in complete moral breakdown and degeneration. They've been heading that way for a long time, but now it's devouring even Israel itself. I don't give much hope for Israel, but we've got to stop the genocide. Okay, so now back to Bisan.
The rest of the north and the eastern areas of Gaza Strip. And when I say the east, I mean the whole east between Beit Hanun far north and Rafah far south. This is approximately 50% of Gaza Strip area, besides the Rafah that has been destroyed and emptied, and the areas of Beit Hanun, Beit Lahia, and Jabalia. Along with the advancing of the Israeli army and tanks and the permanently existence of the army at these areas, and the starvation of the people for more than 75 days now. The Israeli Broadcasting Corporation, the official and non-official statements are all saying that the goal of this plan is to completely annex and control Gaza Strip after forcing the population to flee to the south, to Rafah, after completely destroying it and turning it into a military zone before transferring them to a third country outside of Gaza Strip forever, which means
the Israelis are becoming more systematic, more like a machine, just to systematically drive the Gazans further and further south towards the Rafah gate that leads into the Sinai Desert and or Egypt. And this was probably their goal from the beginning. It was a goal in 1948. They just, Egypt wouldn't let them in at that time. So they stayed there as refugees, and now Israel is hell-bent on finishing that job. And their level of coordination and efficiency reminds me of the Nazis. The Nazis took them the Jews to the concentration camps in trains systematically, and then extracted as much labor as they could, starved them to near death, and then burned them. So there's not much difference. It's very systematic. I would say the Nazis were probably more systematic, but the Palestinians are also resisting a lot more. All right, let me continue.
Is totally emptying the strip, and to make sure that the Palestinians wouldn't be able to come back to their homes, the occupation prime minister announced that the ultimate way to do this is by destroying the infrastructure, the schools, the hospitals, the homes, the playgrounds, every single place that the Palestinians can return to live or to even put their tents in will be destroyed. And because this is a long, complicated plan to implement, Israel will also use starvation to force people to flee to the places they announce, and of course will be committing hundreds of massacres to achieve this plan. And
okay, and they're achieving their plan in that, I saw a report yesterday where if food doesn't enter in significant amounts within like 2 days, you're going to have the deaths of 14,000 children. That's how many are on the brink right now of dying. But that's going to grow and grow because it's been about 10 weeks since any food entered. And they just, all the stores have run out. They're really on empty. And, but this isn't going well. It's not playing well in the world. It's really backfiring on Israel. They're just too morally degenerate at this point to notice or to care. They're just determined to follow through and take the land, kick the people off, kill them. But it's going to end up destroying Israel, of course. All right, let me continue.
actually, this is what Israel has just begun to do. Listen, Israel is in the final steps to wipe us out. And we've been informing you about every single thing happening with us for almost 2 years. You have no excuses to not stop arming Israel by any way. You have no excuses to keep their embassies in your countries. You have no excuses to live your life normal. We are sending the last call Okay? Isolate Israel. Stop the arms convoys. Stop the life in your countries. We trust you, and we know that you can take off to the streets as if the genocide has just begun. We trust you.
My heart goes out to Bisan. I've been involved in activism. I was involved when I lived in the U.S., where I did protest on the streets all over the place, even New York City, and major protests. And it's symbolic. You hold a sign, you stand there, people fill the streets. And maybe that applied pressure in the past, but I think the power now is impervious to that kind of pressure. It's going to take civil disobedience. It's going to take physical, like what the Ansar Allah, the Houthis are doing. You're going to have to confront Israel physically to get them to stop. Nothing else will stop them. And the average people aren't in the position to do that. And so, but what can we do? She's saying she trusts us. Well, we can boycott. That's probably the most effective means to hurt Israel's economy. And I don't want to hurt anyone's economy, but that's the only thing we can do. And there's products you can buy that invest in Israel, and it does make a difference. This is something that Israel does notice, and they respond to, and they try to stop. But that's probably the best bet. Google the companies that invest in Israel and stop buying them. They're all crap products anyway. You'll see what I mean. They're just toxic products that are not good for you. 9 out of 10 of them. My wife, she subscribes to this program that where she sends a little bit of money, and it buys a SIM card for Gazans, and they're allowed to use this credit on her SIM card until it runs out, and then she's got like 3 or 4 people that she supports. So things like that you could do. But I'm open to suggestions. Send me a message, and let's figure out what we can do. Okay, now I want to look at actions that the U.S. is taking, the U.S. government, that on the surface seem positive. So when I see these overtures by the U.S. government, I'm somewhat hopeful. Now, what is Trump planning to do? So here's an Axios article, and it says U.S. presses Israel and Hamas to accept updated offer for Gaza ceasefire. Now, I'm cautiously hopeful about this, but there's a side of me that just says there's just no way it's really going to happen. I mean, I don't think Israel, under any conditions, will abide by this. But let's see what it says. I'm not going to read the whole thing. White House envoy Steve Witkoff has given Israel and Hamas an updated proposal for a Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal. And it is pressing the parties to accept it, an Israeli official and a source with direct knowledge told Axios. Why it matters. The Trump administration is trying to stave off a massive Israeli operation in Gaza, release more hostages, and allow aid in to prevent starvation and a humanitarian catastrophe. Okay? Witkoff's updated offer is similar to previous ones and includes the release of 10 hostages in return for 45 to 60 days of ceasefire and the release of Palestinian prisoners, according to an Israeli official and a source with direct knowledge of the proposal. But it differs from previous proposals with new language that makes clear the new ceasefire and hostage deal will be the beginning of a broader move that could end the war. The new language is aimed at giving guarantees to Hamas that Netanyahu won't be able to unilaterally decide the ceasefire is over and resume the war as he did in March. Okay. The Trump administration is also pressing the Israeli government to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza immediately. The Israelis have indicated that they're going to begin to allow a lot more of these trucks to get in, Witkoff said, before adding that the situation is logistically complicated and the conditions on the ground are dangerous. No kidding. All right. Well, you know, I've read, again, I read every day and I listen to probably 12 to 15 different sources. And there's a consensus that Trump is very unhappy with what's happening in Gaza because his affiliation with Netanyahu and his connection to this do not make him look good. It does not endear him to 50% of the American population. And he's a guy that wants to be popular. And like I said, he responds well to human relationships. So he doesn't want it to continue. I don't know if he has the leverage, the power, the resources to make it stop. I don't know if he can make Israel stop, but let's see what happens. I'm optimistic about this. Okay, so the final thing I want to show is, you know, the government was cracking down on the Ivy League universities for student protests and teacher protests because these high-level schools are our next leaders and they're very influential. They're connected to money. It really says a lot if you have large numbers of the student body supporting the rights of Palestinians. That says a lot. It's not a good sign for Israel. And so Israel and the Zionists have put pressure on the government, the US government, to crack down on this. And they did in a brutal way. But here's what happened at the Harvard University graduation ceremony. Have a look. Okay, so these protests, these rallies, the support for Gaza has not ended. So they did not achieve their objective. They tried to expel or did expel foreign students on a student visa, but it hasn't stopped the resistance. And the resistance, in my opinion, will not be stopped because this is too ugly. It's too inhumane. It's too anti-human to allow children to starve to death and by the thousands, and no less in front of our eyes, on our phones. We're seeing it, we're watching it. And what does this say about us? And people are asking that, and they say, no, this is not in my name. And even US senators are going to Israel and talking with Netanyahu and saying, look, we'll give you money, we'll give you bombs, but you have to stop this starvation. We can't take it anymore. And so I think it's reached a breaking point. And I think that's where Trump is coming from and trying to stop it. That doesn't mean he cares about Gaza, that he doesn't still want to make it into a beach resort. But this starvation, at the very least, this has to stop. Okay, that's all I have to say. I put out a documentary last week. It's called U.S. Permanent War. It's 15 minutes. It's my first attempt. I'm working with a partner named Anna Ingen, and she's a writer that I didn't write the documentary, but I did help co-write it. And so I'm taking people on board here. I want to elevate the level of my channel here, and slowly, little by little, it's going to get better. So please like and subscribe, support me. This format you see will evolve, and I will get better, I will get wiser. And maybe there'll be someone else speaking instead of me, because I'm not a great spokesperson, if you haven't noticed. Okay, so that's all I have to say. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.